Kia ora, and welcome to week 5. Week 5 is exciting because we start workshops. The first round of workshops are week 5 and 6, and these weeks with workshopping comes the heart of the class. So this is a really exciting time. You've been doing a lot of logistics, a lot of preparation, a lot of scheduling, and now you're actually going to meet online or meet on the website, read each other's fiction and respond to it. So that's really exciting. There's been a few questions about the workshop process, and I know all of your tutors have explained it in writing, and you might be sick of hearing it, but I thought I would just dedicate this week's video to going through that process in detail, in some length, to give you a real sense for what's going on and what's happening and why it's happening. So, let's say you're in, Helen's workshop group 1. I don't know when you meet. Let's say you meet Thursday. So, 2 or 3 of you would have posted a story last Thursday, and 2 or 3 of you will post a story the following Thursday in week 6 to workshop. Let's say you're in week 6, so you don't have a story being workshopped this week. What do you do? Well, the first thing you do is you read all the stories that are posted, even if they're posted for a week when you're not workshopping. So you're not workshopping your story in week 5, you're still going to attend the online workshop, and you're still going to read all the stories. And you're going to read these stories very carefully, taking some notes, reading them with a fine-tooth comb. If you're going to read them for a peer review, I suggest checking out the peer review guidelines and reading those pretty carefully. But even if you're not writing a peer review, I still think you need to read them pretty carefully. What should you read them for? How should you read them? Well, that's a very good question. I mean, you all have opinions, so you all read them, and you all be able to say what you enjoyed about a story and why you think you enjoyed it. And that's fine, and you'll all be able to talk about what you didn't enjoy so much, and that's fine. But I'm going to specifically suggest that you look at sort of 3 areas in particular ways. So first of all, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself a question that you may not usually ask about a story. And that is, what do I think, this is a guess because you don't really know, but what do I think this story is trying to do? What do I think it's up to? Is it trying to make me laugh? Is it trying to make me cry? Is it trying to teach me something about language? Is it trying to give me a new perspective on World War I? What is it trying to do? Okay, so that's the first sort of goal. Now, you might be wrong, but it's interesting for an author to hear what you think the story is trying to do. Secondly, ask yourself the question, is this interesting? Am I engaged? Am I engaged by this story about an adventure on the 14th moon of Gion Goth, Grayatan. I don't know, is this interesting to me? Am I interested in reading this story about somebody's partner who's dying of cancer? Is this interesting to me? And that's a good thing to let the author know. And then thirdly, how could this author do this better? How could they make it more interesting? How could they slightly tweak the topic or the terms of their story? How could they tell us something that's a little bit different here? Maybe they need a different voice. Maybe they need a different point of view character. Maybe you're just not sure what the reason of the story is. You're not sure what the emotional center. So going back to number 1, maybe you couldn't quite figure out what's happening. That's important for an author to know about their story. That you didn't actually know its purpose. You couldn't get your head around it. That's something that could be quite useful information. So you read that and you come to workshop. You attend the workshop. Tutors are going to run workshops different ways, and that's fine. But probably they'll do something like a round robin, or they'll give you a chance to speak, and you'll express your opinion about the story. If you're the author of the story, you'll listen, because this is a chance to hear other people trying to negotiate the terms of your story, trying to figure out what you are meaning to say to them. And if it were me, I'd take some notes, I'd listen very carefully, and I'd thank my peers for their comments. Maybe even if I don't like them or I don't agree with them, they spent their time, and I think it's important that they get some thanks. So now let's say I'm the author again. So what do I do now? Well, I go and I get my peer review. That's posted on the thread online, and I read my peer review. I look at my notes from workshop. I think back to workshop. I think about what the tutor said, think about what my peer said, and I revise the story, and I turn it in a week later in the assignment Dropbox. If I'm writing a peer review, this is where it's a little tricky. I have to post 2 copies. One is to that author. So the one I post on the thread in Stream, and the other one I put in the assignment Dropbox that I'm going to be graded on. Moderated peer review is basically the same process without the workshop. You read the stories of the one or two other people in your moderated peer review group. You write some feedback. One of those pieces of feedback is a peer review, which you indicate, and you put a copy of that in the assignment Dropbox. And then the tutor's going to come in and write some comments. And that's the moderation part. That's the moderated peer review. So if you're the author of a moderated peer review story, you're going to read all those other stories. You're going to read the peer reviews that were written of you, and you're going to read the tutor's comments. And you're going to take all those into consideration when you turn in the final draft of your story, which is also due about a week later. And those dates should be clearly spelled out. If you don't know the dates for your workshop, if you don't know the dates for when your stories are due, when your moderated peer review is due, when your final drafts are due, just ask your tutor. And they probably, excuse me, have posted it somewhere, but maybe they haven't and they just need a little reminder. So just give them that reminder. So I hope that you really enjoy workshopping. Like I said, it's the heart of a creative writing class. It's a chance to get to talk about your peers' fiction and have them read your fiction and get their comments. And I think it can be a really illuminating and really positive experience and a productive experience. And I hope that's the case for you this week or next week. Have a good one.